Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. A little bit late analysis, but we're coming back after Cowboys 35-27 victory over the Detroit Lions on the road as we head in to New England next week at 6-4, still atop of the NFC East after New England handles their business against the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to break everything down, but first, want to give a shout out to our friends over at Boss's Ranch. Guys, they have a tremendous product. This Red River Ranch flavor is the talk of the town. Every video we make, we get comments, great feedback from you guys. Please continue to chime in with your feedback on the product. Again, family-owned business, Texas Longhorn fans, Dallas Cowboys fans. They have a wonderful, wonderful product. We have the regular ranch flavor here as well. That's great for kids, great at tailgates, events. Trust me, taste test the whole bit. You can find them at your local HEB in the cold produce section. We love us some Boss's Ranch here. Best darn ranch in all of Texas. So, speaking of our Texas teams, the Dallas Cowboys, I want to start with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level right now. And coming into the season, how many people thought he would be playing at such a level through 10 weeks? It's been amazing to watch his development. We have to give a lot of credit to Dak for putting in the work and having the work ethic and the growth, really the growth since his junior year at Mississippi State. To me, he wasn't even a draftable player there. And I've said that a bunch, to even working himself up to be a draftable player and seeing the player's work ethic to being ready to play rookie year unexpectedly to what he's given us these last 4 years as a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It's been extremely impressive to see his marriage with John Kitna and Kellen Moore and their relationship expand to now getting the technical aspects cleaned up. Now the footwork is cleaned up. You see the mechanics. Everybody talks about, Matthew was telling me earlier, hips don't lie with Dak. We see but you see the offseason work with a Tom House, who is one of Tom Brady's guys that he's trained with and one of the acclaimed quarterback coaches in the world. All of that work, yes, it's to get a contract and get paid and validate what Dak has been for us. We always talk about what he hasn't done or what he can't do, and he does so much, and he opens up so much of this offense and picks people up. He does pick people up. Listen, Michael Gallup had an amazing day. 9 catches, 100 and how many yards does Michael Gallup have? 148 yards, over 100 yards in the first half, to where they had to move Darius Slay on to Michael Gallup. It was a very impressive performance by him. But one of the things that we seem to forget, because now you hear the Carson Wentz people and people around the league like, well, if this quarterback had, I wish my guy had a Michael Gallup to throw to and all that, because we always have to discount Dak in some way, right? From a national narrative perspective. But how come Dak doesn't get credit for taking a guy who was a third-round pick last year? Third-round pick last year, Michael Gallup. Y'all wanted to draft Calvin Ridley. I told you, tape tells me Michael Gallup can do everything and he's younger, and we should pick him later in the draft. They pick him in the third round. Wasn't strong enough last year. They get the strength on his body and the offseason work and the chemistry that Dak has developed with the Michael Gallup and helping elevate his play. Dak deserves a lot of credit there, as well as Michael Gallup for putting in the work on his body and honing his craft as a receiver. You're starting to see the chemistry build with Randall Cobb. And that's going to take time too. They're only going to get better and better of working together. One of the reasons why Dak was so good with Cole Beasley whenever he targeted him, they had worked together the entire time for years, right? Randall Cobb, he's had 10 games with. So as he continues to, and you're starting to see the uptick of what we're able to do, deep seam stuff, down the field, Randall Cobb, run after catch ability. These are all beautiful things to see. And then we even started doing load management with Amari to try to save him a little bit. And yes, he opened up on Darius Slay and he kept coming out of the game and whatnot, but that was okay because we were working to Michael Gallup. We were working to Blake Jarwin when we did give him an opportunity to get in there. And then Tony Pollard, just the ball distribution on a 444-yard passing day to Tony Pollard, Jarwin, Jason Witten still involved, regardless of where we were really trying to work, and then even Amari in the second half as well. So very, very impressive performance all season long by Dak. Even people love to bring up the Jets game, and we don't get the any given Sunday pass like many of the other teams or quarterbacks in this league. But I'll tell you what, with the lack of tackles he had, the lack of wide receivers, it's funny how he still almost beat that team without any of those folks. And we're starting to see a consistency from Dak. And he's really had an uptick these last couple weeks. People talk about, and I'm talking about all this because we love to move the goalpost when it comes to Dak. And now that he beats up on bad teams, he pads his stats against bad teams. But Minnesota has excellent defense, and he shredded those guys. The only thing is we took the ball out of his hands from a coaching staff perspective. So personally, I'm really, really excited about Dak and this offense and the passing game of this offense, I should say. Now, everything else is still, as I said before in the previous video, I kind of know where this is going. And this Detroit game really proved that, because when you're getting shredded by Jeff Driscoll and Bo Scarborough, who I did not even know was in the league, to be honest with you. I'm just being real. I know we drafted him a few years ago. I know he hopped around some practice squads. I know the brother was the starting tailback of the Detroit Lions all of a sudden. I don't know if Detroit Lions knew that Bo Scarborough was their starting tailback. But he comes out there, and all of a sudden he's gaining a head of steam, and he's trucking guys, and we have these same issues stopping the run. We have some of the same things where we freak out with a mobile quarterback, and all of a sudden and then later in the game, you see Marvin Jones start to come alive. Darian Thompson foolishly tries to go for a jump ball against Kenny Golladay, read the scouting report, knock the ball out of his hands. These things aren't deep, but we're continuing to struggle with them. And so as far as highly rated or whatever metrics you want to use for the defense, they just give stuff up in the most inopportune times. And I don't trust them in the playoffs. I've never trusted our defense in the playoffs. And all these playoff games we've lost this decade have been on the defense, in my opinion, excluding Minnesota, I think in like 2011 or whenever that was. Maybe that was 2000. Whenever Minnesota playoff game. Other than that, though, all the games we've lost in the playoffs have been because we weren't able to get that last stop, or we let Aaron Rodgers get hot, or we get torn up by Aaron Rodgers with one leg. And it doesn't matter who the personnel is. And that's what's so frustrating with this organization, because we're starting to get that same level of production, even maybe more so than what we had with Tony Romo. And the end of the story, I feel like, is still going to be the same unless something changes on the defensive side of the ball. But where's that change going to come from? I love our pass rush when we get the opportunities to pin our ears back and get after people. And Michael Bennett only helps spruce that up, even though he had a horrible offsides penalty, which was kind of reminiscent of the Malcolm Roach penalty against Texas. That was just too much for me to take in one weekend. But the other thing, too, is we've built our hat around our run game and our offensive line. And yes, to see Dak dispel the narrative that he can't win when Zeke doesn't have a whole bunch of rushing yards, cool. Even though he's done that before, but people seem to forget, whatever. But to not get the ball rolling and to see our offensive line consistently knocked back, consistently put on the ground, consistently not being able to get over to their blocks when we're trying to run outside zone type of stuff, it's not all on Zeke, I don't think. I do think Zeke has lost a step, and you don't see him making some of the explosive, not even just explosive plays, but breaking some tackles and moving forward consistently like we used to. But he's also getting hit in spots that he's not normally used to getting. When you're getting hit in the backfield all the time, it's hard to make people miss. Now, I do think with the inclusion of a Tony Pollard, it's helping a little bit. Some of that jet sweep stuff they're doing with him and some of the inside handoffs. I liked how he ran on the 2-point conversion, put his head down. So even though Tony's got a little juice right now, and I call him Groovy Tony, because he be getting groovy on folks, man. The open field stuff, we've seen this multiple weeks. They just said a stat on Undisputed that we're 6-0 when we're 6-0 when Tony Pollard when he has at least 12 plays, 12 snaps. 6-0. We're 6-4. So you do the math. But those are some things some wrinkles we need to continue to add on, especially when we start to face the elite teams like we're about to go up against the New England Patriots, and that's kind of where I want to leave off here because Dallas did what they needed to do against Detroit and win the game. I think this game would have been very different if Matthew Stafford had played, but Jeff Driscoll gave us problems with his legs, and it made it a lot harder than it needed to be. Now, I do think from a standpoint of what we'll see next week going to New England, look, we just faced Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator. Now, what Matt Patricia does versus what Steve Belichick, Gerard Mayo, and what that crew is doing in New England, it's changed a little bit, but there's also some same type of schematic things that they do that I think will be mimicked. For example, I'm very curious to see where they put Stephon Gilmore. Bill Belichick in the past, when he's gone up against these elite guys, trying to take away your strengths. So I think what we'll see from New England is pretty similar defensive front, like Minnesota and Detroit, to try to shut down that interior run, try to blow up our center. The offensive line, I talked about it being a weak league. They've been working through our center, Travis Frederick. He's been the point of weakness in the run game, in my opinion, and people getting underneath him. I see New England trying to take advantage of that as their pass to stop Zeke. Now, from a passing perspective, especially if we're going to come out and try to be aggressive on first down, and as my buddy texted me earlier, weather is going to be a part of this as well, playing in the afternoon in the Northeast. But if we're trying to go quick game or anything like that, Stephon Gilmore, who I mentioned earlier, Detroit came out and had Darius Slay to start on Amari Cooper, and then tried to do some sort of, Rashawn Melvin with help on Gallup, and then kind of take care of everything else. I do think that New England could go one or two ways. Either they start Stephon Gilmore, and I've seen Belichick do this before, where he'll have Gilmore on our number 2, which would be Gallup, brackets Amari Cooper, and then, basically I'm going to try to win with my slot corner on Randall Cobb. And that's, if I'm Dak, that's what I would target. Or they start Gilmore on Amari Cooper. If they leave him on the island, as good as Gilmore is, might be the best corner in the league. Amari Cooper, in my opinion, is one of the best route runner, if not the best route runner in the league. And I think with him playing limited snaps last week, that should help. And I expect them to win. And one of the things I love about Dak this year is he has not shied away from throwing at good corners. And so he threw at Darius Slay. Now sometimes it got knocked away or almost got picked, but he will attack Stephon Gilmore, whether he's on Michael Gallup or whether he's on Amari Cooper. But I think he'll be smart about it and try to work through that. And then it's just the other thing too is getting ready to identify. One of the things that New England does the best job in the league at is dressing up and disguising their cover zero blitzes, and they've overwhelmed teams with that this year. But if you're with our motion and how we utilize things and how we are able to identify coverages, that's something that Dak has actually been very good at it against this year. And the last thing is quarterback using his legs and New England just stopping the run, period. I think historically Bill Belichick has had trouble with dual threat quarterbacks. This is a game where Dak Prescott will need to use his legs. We saw him use his legs a little bit against Detroit. Sometimes he left a couple opportunities on the field where he could have ran a little bit more. I think he'll have to take those against New England and take his yards to just clear things up, because when you watch the New England versus Baltimore game, there were certain things that they couldn't do just because of Lamar Jackson's legs. Now, I understand Dak Prescott is nowhere near the type of athlete or runner that Lamar Jackson is, but he does present issues where you will have to account for him if need be in the quarterback run game, especially if we scheme for it a little bit. And then on the defensive side of the house, it's going to sound weird, but we're going to have to make New England throw. We're going to have to get them in that spread, because our weakness is when people come downhill, 22 personnel, and just try to run the ball down our throat. Or even even a 12 personnel look where people will go stretch right, stretch left, like you saw in the Minnesota game. So this is now James Devlin's out for the season, who's a very good fullback. I don't know if Isaiah Wynn will be ready to play, and you're seeing the drop off because they have to play Newhouse a whole bunch. So that's somebody that Robert Quinn, Dorrance Armstrong can take advantage of in this matchup. So, but in terms of throwing the football, I mean, I think you just take Jordan Lewis. Rest in peace, Anthony Brown, who's out for the season with tricep injury. But you stick Jordan Lewis on Julian Edelman, play some help, kind of alerts, kind of what the Eagles did with their linebackers, and they did a very good job of it. And then you say, Tom Brady, you got to beat me with all these other dudes, because Tom Brady's struggling right now throwing the football. He doesn't have the same weapons. He doesn't have a Gronk. So the only guy I think that can really hurt us in the pass game after that, Philip Dorsett might not even play. I think he has a concussion. It's James White. Now, it concerns me because we let J.D. McKissick get loose on us a few times out of the backfield. So we're going to have, those are some areas to look at. And I actually think we can go into New England and win this football game based on the matchup and how well Dak is playing and identifying certain things. And this is going to be a fun opportunity for Dak. It's going to be a really fun opportunity for Kellen Moore to kind of see how far along they really are, and to kind of get some monkeys off of people's back and get another game ahead of Philly and get some that criticism off their back of, they don't perform against the better teams. So overall, I'm encouraged with what I'm seeing from Dak and our passing game, but everything else is either what I already knew or just more of where we're headed, and I'm still not seeing us at that conference championship and above level. Just being real, I'm sure you'd be at this channel if I wasn't keeping it otherwise. So guys, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe, hit that like button. It helps us grow this channel. Matthew and I are working really hard to try to get things even more better. I was going to say more better for you guys, and a better product as we break these things down and just talk as fans, right? So curious to see everybody's comments. Make sure you subscribe and like. Thank you to Boss's Ranch, HEB Cold Produce. Guys, celebrating the Cowboys' victory this week. Over and out.